Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now for a really shocking story. Parents Maxie and Rosalind Levin were arrested after a dispute with their child's school following emails and messages shared in a parents' WhatsApp group. 6 police officers arrived at the home. They were taken into custody for 8 hours and the home was searched, all in front of their young child. After a 5-week investigation, no further action was taken, but they're still trying to understand why it happened. Joining me now is the man at the centre of this scandal, Maxie Allen. Maxie, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, this is featured extensively in the press this week, rightly so. Would you mind, in your own words, telling us the story of what happened?
Well, I'd start by saying that I never set out to be a poster boy for free speech. I'm not a commentator on policing issues. These are just the things that happened. And I thought it was really a story that shouldn't go untold. So we've told the story. And in many ways, we'll leave it to other people to judge the significance. And it could be a freak occurrence. Or do these things happen more often than we realise? Well, that would be interesting to find out. The essential point of it is very much as you've just described it. I was sitting in this very room when 2 police officers came in. I was on a Zoom call just like this and arrested me. And in the sitting room, another pair of officers arrested my partner, Rosalind, in front of our 3-year-old daughter. Another pair searched the house. We're taken to custody, eventually interviewed, where they presented us with no material evidence of anything, either harassment or malicious communications. We're shown no examples of it. And we were released on police bail. And for the next few weeks, we had to sweat over it because although we knew we'd done nothing wrong, we couldn't help wonder if whatever bizarre logic had got us arrested could then get us charged. And that would have enormous implications for our lives. And that didn't come to pass. And in the end, the officer rang us up and said, I found no evidence for these offences. And we were given a no further action notice. And then kind of here we are. And as I say, I think I wanted just to say what had happened, because I think it shouldn't have gone untold. But how significant or not it is for free speech and policing and police responses, in many ways, I think that's for other people to judge.
We've seen footage now of the police outside of your home. 6 police officers. That's the sort of numbers you would expect for some kind of violent offence or drugs. 6 officers turning up in this manner. I would say no police officers is the right number of officers here, but the fact it's 6 is so insanely excessive, right?
Well, yes. I mean, it seemed to me the kind of operation you'd associate with a terror cell or a drug den or organised crime. And what we can't understand is why, they had reported concerns, they needed to check them out. Why couldn't they just ask us in for a scheduled formal interview where we could at least arrange childcare and not have our neighbours baffled and shell-shocked by what had happened and what they witnessed? There were 2 police cars and a police van parked on our road.
So, I mean, just the question that I have is why... Of course, why are they doing this when they don't have evidence? But the fact that they don't have any evidence before they arrest you, that's what seems very topsy-turvy here. They're arresting you literally on the say-so of this school, it seems like. That's it, just to say so. No evidence.
Well, that's how it seemed to us, because when we were interviewed by the detective towards the end of the day, who'd had no previous involvement with the case, he did not have any material evidence. He had a vague statement from one of the complainants, and that was that. So, for example, malicious communications, what I was imagining was that he would say, did you do this, and did you write that, and did you post this? There was none of that. He offered not one example. So what happened between the police being contacted and them deciding to send 6 police officers to our house is a very good question. And, when you read a lot of the online comments and tweets around this, people say, well, there must have been something else going on. Well, the gap in the story is one that I can't explain. It can only be another one of the other organisations involved who can explain why one thing led to the other.
Well, it's almost like the gap in the story...
That's why it does feel Kafkaesque.
Yeah, well, the gap in the story kind of is the story. And it should be, just to go back a little bit, we're talking about some messages on a parents' WhatsApp group because you had some issues with the deputy head being sort of promoted essentially to the head role. These are very normal concerns. I belong to probably about 7 or 8 parent WhatsApp groups through the years, and ones that they've left primary school. It's scary for any parent who kind of is in these groups, and the things that are said, where you have to kind of go, wait a minute, me questioning this teacher and what they taught, or really anything, could anything be used against me in this manner?
Well, there's, I think, some very interesting questions to be asked and discussion to be had about whether organisations have, whether your WhatsApps in a private group are fair game for public authorities. I would say they are not. For example, I think, if an authority eavesdrops on a private conversation, as appears to have happened in this case, it is exactly the same as opening letters. So if someone intercepted your mail and opened it and read your letter, that's exactly the same as eavesdropping a private conversation. This WhatsApp group in particular, was a private group between about 12 and 15 people on it, with no one connected to the school. And there probably aren't very many people in the country who aren't on a WhatsApp group of some kind. And here's a parallel I've drawn. Many people on a street WhatsApp group, and they might well chirp about, the bins haven't been emptied, or council tax is too high, there's too many potholes. They wouldn't then expect to get a letter from the council saying, I've seen your WhatsApps, and then passing it on to the police. So I think what's happened is that legislation around discourse and what is acceptable or not to say has not kept up with the way we communicate now, where we all write things down all the time and share them with each other. It hasn't caught up. And I think in a way, one way to look at it in terms of criticism and comment and the digital marketplace of conversations, trying to stop that and trying to control it is a bit like trying to stop it raining. It's going to be impossible. Now, of course, sometimes there are genuine cases of abuse, and things might come to light from private conversations which might reveal genuine criminal activity. Or, for example, in a parent's WhatsApp context, a safeguarding issue for a child, in which case you could say it will pass a public interest test. But I think most people would agree that that public interest test, the bar needs to be set really very, very high.
Well, it doesn't seem like there's a bar at all. You mentioned that example of potholes, but actually there was someone who was taken in for police questioning for putting up messages on Facebook about their local councillors. So this is far from the only incident of this kind. I guess it's just kind of the latest, if not the most egregious. But this has been a sort of encroachment that has been ever more seen in the public space over the last couple of years. Do you think cases like yours are actually going to make a difference? Because we've been covering this kind of thing for years now on this show, and even though the police are repeatedly admonished, they don't seem to learn their lesson.
Well, I'm not a policing expert, and I'm not a policing commentator, and I have no agenda here. But it seems as if between the legislation, between what's expected of the police, and how they deal with complaints and then make decisions, just speaking generally, something isn't working. And why, I don't know, because I'm not a policing expert. But yes, there are a number of similar stories. I think professional police officers would probably argue that they're put in a very difficult position sometimes. People come to them with genuine complaints, they might exhibit distress, and the legislation is ambiguous in certain respects, and individual police officers who may not have that much experience are put in quite a difficult position. These are quite difficult questions to answer, because sometimes there will be genuine cases of abuse where intervention is necessary. I can't answer all those questions in the time we have tonight, I'm afraid, John.
Well, I guess the point is that your situation hopefully will start or get more people to engage with these questions to see how, frankly, if it could happen to you, normal family, making some complaints, legitimate complaints against their school, to then be arrested. If it could happen to you, it can happen to any of us. And hopefully more and more people will wake up. So thank you very much for speaking out on this issue. I hope that that we can actually close some of these loopholes. Anyway, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Maxie Allen. Spokesman for Hertfordshire County Council said following the departure of the former head teacher, an interim head was appointed for the one term to allow time for a proper recruitment process to be carried out. The role was advertised publicly and the recruitment was supported by external professional advisors. We are confident that this was a fair, transparent and timely process.